What really happens when one simple sentence shakes millions of hearts. ARMY never thought that moment would come so quickly and feel so deep. In an opportunity that initially seemed ordinary, Jungkook suddenly uttered a sentence that sounded calm, but its meaning seemed to open the door to a big question that had never dared to be said. The sentence was not a shout-out, not an official announcement, but precisely because of its simplicity, many felt that something was being prepared, or perhaps was being released. What makes the atmosphere even more tense is not only Jungkook's words, but Taehyung's reaction afterwards. No big smiles as usual, no spontaneous jokes that often become mood neutralizers. His gaze changed, his expression restrained, as if he was digesting something much bigger than just small talk. The cameras may not catch everything, but the ARMY feels it. There was a pause that felt too long. There was a silence that felt too heavy to ignore. From that moment on, the timeline was filled with speculation. Why did Jungkook choose those words now? Why did Taehyung react as if he were faced with an inevitable reality? Some ARMY felt this was a hint of BTS direction going forward, while others felt a subtle fear that was hard to explain. Not because of loss, but because of change. Because the future, no matter how beautiful, always carries a sense of uncertainty. But behind that anxiety, another emotion sneaks in: hope. If one sentence can be so jarring, could it mean BTS is at a crucial point in their journey? The point where honesty ends up being preferred over hiding feelings. Jungkook may just be speaking from the heart, and Taehyung may just be reacting as an ordinary human being. But for the ARMY, that moment felt like a signal. A signal that whatever lies ahead, BTS will not go through it without meaning, and without leaving an emotional trail that will always be remembered. As time went on, the snippets of the moment kept being replayed, analyzed second by second, as if every movement and breath held a hidden message. ARMY began to recall BTS' long journey, how they grew up together, went through the toughest times, and always held each other even though the world demanded more than it seemed. Therefore, Jungkook's one sentence feels different. Not like a spontaneous remark, but rather like a long-kept confession, finally found a way out. Taehyung was again the center of attention, not because of the words, but because of his silence. In his silence, many felt that there were emotions that did not have time to be spoken. The restrained expression raised the inevitable question: did he already know everything? Or just realize something that he had been trying to ignore? ARMY felt a faint bitterness, a mixed feeling between pride and fear, between trust and doubt. Amid all the speculation, one thing was clear: the relationship between them was never simple. BTS has always built a bond that goes beyond just being a music group, and that's precisely why every little change feels so big. If this is indeed the beginning of a new chapter, then it is natural that emotions also flare up, not as a sign of separation, but as a sign of growth. Because something grows, it often has to leave its old form. And perhaps therein lies the power of this moment. It's not Jungkook's words alone, or Taehyung's reaction that makes the heart beat faster, but the realization that BTS is moving forward, with bolder honesty, with more open feelings. Soldiers can wonder, can feel anxious, can even cry in silence. But one thing hasn't changed. No matter what the future holds, BTS and ARMY are still bound by the same story, an unfinished story, and it feels even more meaningful because of all those questions. That night, many soldiers admitted that they had difficulty sleeping. Not because of official news or big announcements, but because of feelings that continue to hang around. There was something that felt real but could not be touched, as if that brief moment had opened the door to emotions that had been kept tight. Jungkook doesn't say much, and Taehyung doesn't explain anything, but that's exactly where his strength lies. When the words stopped, feelings took over, and the ARMY captured him without the need for explanation. Some began to remember how BTS was always honest in his own time. Never rushed, never forced. If this time Jungkook chooses to say that phrase, it may be because he feels his time has come. And if Taehyung looks shaky for a moment, it's probably because he feels the same weight of meaning. Not about the end, but rather about responsibility towards the future, towards the dreams that have been built together from the very beginning. Behind the noise of speculation, there is a silence that actually feels warm. ARMY slowly realizes that no matter what happens later, this moment will be remembered as the point where honesty appears without a mask. A reminder that BTS is not just a symbol, but rather human beings who grow, change, and learn to understand themselves. And perhaps, Jungkook's one sentence was not an answer, but an invitation to prepare. Because the future of BTS, as they always point out, never goes straight. It is winding, emotional, and sometimes painful, yet always honest. Taehyung's reaction that night may not have been meant to be read this far, but for ARMY, it became a mirror of their own feelings. A mixture of fear of loss and the belief that whatever comes, this bond will not simply collapse. And as long as there's honesty, BTS's story isn't over. It's just preparing to change.